things coming to the forefront. It's been a year of exposure. It's been a year of revelation, but mainly in the negative sense. You can agree with me on that, right? Okay. We have had uh, much ado about TD Jakes, Mike Todd, and several others that don't come to mind right now, but you know what I'm talking about. So it seems like the world has gotten more evil. It's gotten more demonic, and most of this is coming from the Christian community. Let me read something here. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. It says now, and this is coming from the King James, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. I'll start right there and let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3. And it says, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. And that's where we are these days. We're a society with itching ears. We are a society that looks for scandal, thrives on scandal, but at the same time, these things that are scandalous, that are troublesome, is not just the world, but it's the Christian community. It's those that are in leadership, and that needs to be brought to the forefront, that needs to be talked about. Now, this latest situation entails Joni Lamb and her family and the Daystar Network. Now, what I want to do is bring out the problem, show you the problem, and then mention what the solution should be via God, the Bible. So, let's check it out. Let me preface this first. Now, this is Joni Lamb having a conversation. Now, this conversation is like an hour and a half long, so far too long from what I wanted to delve into. So what I've done is chopped it down, and hopefully I didn't do a disservice to it. But I just wanted to condense it to get in as much information as possible. And well, let's just get into this, and I'll reiterate some things.
Future of Daystar and the unity of the Lambs family. Stay tuned as we unpack this shocking story. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to 2021. After the tragic death of Marcus Lamb, Daystar's founder, leadership of the network was expected to pass to his eldest son, Jonathan Lamb. But behind the scenes, family tensions were brewing, tensions that would eventually lead to Jonathan and Susie's sudden and dramatic exit. In an email sent just before his death, Marcus Lamb changed Daystar's leadership plan, naming his wife Joni as the network's president instead of Jonathan. Jonathan now claims this decision was made as a form of punishment after he raised serious allegations against a family member, allegations that would set off a chain reaction of conflict investigation, and heartbreak. In August 2021, Jonathan and Susie Lamb accused a close family member, let's call him Pete, of molesting their young daughter. The accusations first came to light during a family retreat and were later explored in a private investigation led by Denise Boggs, a family friend and founder of the Living Waters Ministry. To assess the claims, Boggs brought in Debbie Leonhardt, a licensed forensic counselor who interviewed the Lambs and their daughter. Leonhardt found that the child was unable to speak about the alleged incident, a reaction she says is common in cases of sexual trauma. Leonhardt urged the family to seek further counseling. But what happened next is deeply troubling. According to Jonathan and Susie, Marcus and Joni decided to drop everything. Pete was never fully interviewed, and Leonhardt's assessment was cut short. Instead of addressing the allegations, Marcus Lamb reportedly declared the issue resolved. He told Jonathan and his brother-in-law, J.W., that they needed to accept the findings or find other employment. This is the reason why Marcus Lamb disinherited his only son, Jonathan, before he died 3 months later. Marcus passed away unexpectedly on December 1st, 2021 due to COVID complications which Joni Lamb later denied. In the aftermath of Marcus's death, Jonathan and Susie stayed with Daystar for a time, but tensions within the family continued to escalate. After Joni Lamb got remarried, Jonathan and his wife were fired from hosting their shows on Daystar TV. Jonathan was later in 2023 demoted from the position of vice president to a managerial position for refusing to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which now looks like an attempt to silence him from exposing the abuse against their daughter.
Well, we called you back in here for John to talk to you, and we give you 24 hours from the time we sign.
Okay, I'm going to hold it up right there. But now the thing that gets me, now you heard this, whereas there's someone that the family knows, and the fictitious name was given. They didn't come out with his real name, but apparently something was done to the son's daughter, and it sounds like evidently that the late Marcus Lamb and Joni wanted to somehow cover this up. And the thing is, it makes you wonder now, why would you, the grandparents, why would you want to cover up something done to your grandchild? You know, make that make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? Why would you want to cover that up? Why would you want to sweep that under the rug? Why would you want to have your son and your daughter-in-law be silent on the matter? And then you threaten him with taking him out of the will, taking him off of his position at work. So why would you do that? That doesn't sound right. It sounds fishy. But yet, going into the matter, going into this video further in, the son and daughter-in-law, it seemed like they were just concentrating on keeping their position in the church. Again, it doesn't sound right, because that's not how I would figure a normal person in that situation, especially with the allegation of your daughter being violated. That's not how someone would react. So let's listen further in this. And this is a representative of the family on the mother's side, reprimanding and letting the son know what's going on.
You with me? You understand? So until 3 o'clock tomorrow, you have to go home, pray, talk, do whatever you want to, then come back into Arnold's office and may read that until you're comfortable to sign it or not sign it.
Okay.
And if you sign it, then you're bound by it just like the rest of it.
Yeah.
If you don't sign it, you have removed yourself from the board and removed yourself from the officer of Daystar.
I wouldn't have.
Okay, let me see, go a little further here. Now this is Jonathan and Susie speaking.
In November 2023, the Lambs learned more troubling details about how the investigation had been handled. A recording reveals that Marcus and Joni instructed Denise Boggs to stop pursuing the case, saying, "We want to drop everything." In their statement, Daystar claimed the allegations against Pete were thoroughly investigated and proven false. Pete's lawyer even pointed to a polygraph test Pete allegedly passed. But Jonathan Lamb has raised serious questions about this claim, noting that Joni's new husband, Doug Weiss, owns a polygraph company. Jonathan also cited legal experts who questioned the reliability of lie detector tests, especially in cases involving sexual misconduct. Daystar also pointed out that the Lamb family continued to travel together after the allegations, but Jonathan and Susie countered that they set strict boundaries to protect their daughter. They attended one family beach trip in 2022 at Joni's insistence, since she was still grieving her husband, and so Jonathan agreed to join in the trip, but ensured their children were never alone with Pete. This led to the firing of Jonathan on November 15th this year, when they decided to share their story with the public and provided the police with the evidence they had. They've since described their experience as one of betrayal and heartbreak, accusing their family of prioritizing reputation and the Daystar billions over justice. Susie has spoken candidly about her struggles with depression, while Jonathan continues to challenge the narrative presented by Daystar. In response, Daystar released a statement calling the allegations private family matters and emphasizing that the issue was resolved years ago. But for Jonathan and Susie, the wounds remain fresh. Pete's lawyer, Mark G. Daniel, in response, said that Jonathan's statements were false, insulting, and demeaning. Jonathan's sister Rebecca and his husband said they would consider going on the record about the whole saga. So, what's next? For Daystar, these revelations could spark serious challenges to its credibility and leadership. For Jonathan and Susie Lamb, the future remains uncertain, but they've expressed a desire to continue their ministry work independently. This story has rocked the Christian community and raised important questions about accountability, transparency, and trust. As more details emerge, one thing is clear. This isn't just a family dispute. It's a crisis with far-reaching
Once you're
implications.
submitted, it will. Until
Okay, so apparently I had to correct myself on this. So they have gone to the authorities and they have pursued the matter concerning their daughter. Okay, so I thought they had just left that on the table. So apparently, this interview that they had with their mother, I'm assuming that it happened before said allegations about the child. It all sounds, muddy, but it's a mess. But let's hear this.
and nothing. This is just a black hole. That every word, every conversation is going to get sucked into the black hole, and it's just going to keep feeding this until you submit. And submission means she's the voice of God to you. Now, I pastored for 30 years in Amarillo, and I had a wonderful relationship with all the elders. And I said,
I'm sorry, can you clarify? She said she's the voice of God to me?
she's the voice of God
So
to you.
God's voice is-
So I have to hear, I can't hear from God, I have to hear from her?
Outside of Daystar. What she says is God in Daystar. This is the voice of God in Daystar now.
But what accountability does she have if she's off?
Well, she has
Him.
a husband. She has a board.
I'm on the board.
Yeah, but you're not individually. You're not her accountability. Individually, you're her employee. And I'm
No, I mean,
saying, wait a minute, John.
I have accountability.
She's the voice of God in Daystar.
No, there's no other accountability at
Romans 13
Daystar.
tells us to submit to authority, all authority.
Okay, now did you hear that? Now the son asked, okay, who is she accountable to? And the representative says, well, she's accountable to her husband. She's accountable to the board. Now, he never says God. And then the son, Jonathan, corrects him, saying, well, I'm on the board. But then the other guy says, well, that doesn't count.
Because it's established by God and it's the minister.
No, but I'm saying
even civil authority.
But who is her accountability at Daystar?
But that's not your concern. Your concern is to do what she says.
Not
If you can't be here.
No, it is my concern.
No, Jonathan, you keep arguing with everything. You got to stop.
I'm not arguing.
You're arguing with everything. You've got to stop. And you've got to accept the fact that's the boss. You've got to do what she says. And if you can't, you got to leave. And not everything's going to be a conversation. When you're under authority and the general says, go over there, then you walk over there. You don't have to have a conversation. She's the general. She's the head here. And you're not. And that's the main thing. You're under her.
I know. I made it clear that she's the president.
You do not recognize her as being your boss. You do not recognize.
I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
I do.
Jonathan, you don't.
Yes,
I'm
I
telling
do.
you don't.
Babe, it's fine.
Listen, Jonathan, I've had a lot of people work for me over the years. And I know immediately when someone's submitted and when they're not, just by their spirit. And your spirit for this whole thing with Doug is you're standing over here.
No.
You won't budge. You argue. Everything's an argument. Everything of this dramatic process. And it just has to end. And it has to end with both of you acknowledging her authority. She is God's voice to you here on this property and related to Daystar Network. She is God's voice. Whether you say it or not, or whether you want to make it an argument or not, she's the boss. What she says goes. Now, what I'm telling you is, if you don't believe that, you can't stay. She won't let you. If you do believe that and you submit to her with a right spirit, fine. All this can be repaired. But arguing and more talking won't get anybody
Tell him
anywhere.
what you told me about the Lord showed you about stubbornness and what it leads to.
Well, when the Bible says this was related to Saul, and Saul says that rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. And so it equates stubbornness with being an idol worshiper. And the reason it does is because stubbornness is the worship of your own opinion. And that's what y'all are doing. You're being stubborn. You're making an idol out of your own opinion related to Doug. And so the grace I've given both of you in all of this is your dad died a year and a half ago. And you talk about her being a grieving widow. Well, I know good and well that your father meant the world to you, that's a big issue to you. Here comes Doug in the midst of all the different circumstances that were going on. That's the grace I've given y'all. The grace I don't have any longer is we've talked this thing to death. I've been with.
Okay, so what I want to bring up to speed for you is the reason that Jonathan and Susie are at odds with the mother, the Joni, is that she married a man who was married for several decades. And they contend that she got married to another man that puts her in an adulterous relationship, an adulterous marriage, because apparently he got divorced from his wife, and it wasn't due to any indiscretion on the wife's part or his part. It was more so, well, I want to get married to Joni, so therefore I'm going to leave you. And that's, to simplify things. This is the way the kids are seeing it. This is the way Jonathan and Susie are seeing this. So that's why they have such contention for the new husband.
As in several family meetings where I was as patient as I knew how to be, and you beat me up. You threw everything I said back in my face, didn't listen to a word I had to say. And that's why at the end of that last meeting, I said, dude, I'm done. This is in for me. So I tried to show grace. I tried to help. I tried to help you guys navigate through it. Nothing has helped to this point right here. And nothing's going to help until you submit. Now, again, if you say, we can't, this is a personal conviction, I totally understand that. I totally respect that. Because no one can force you to do something against your own personal convictions unless you're taking a paycheck. unless you're voluntarily saying, I work for you, tell me what to do. And that's what you're doing. You inherited all this, and so this conversation never came up because it didn't have to. But the reality of it is, because you're taking a paycheck and because you're under her authority, you have to submit. The stubbornness is this opinion about Doug. You guys came in to see me in my office, all of you, the 6 of you talked. And at the end of that, I didn't agree. I mean, I didn't tell you I didn't agree. I just told you I wanted to pray about it. I never heard of it before. Y'all got mad at me because you didn't want my opinion. You just wanted me to change.
Not me and Jonathan.
No, you said we were respectful. That was the others.
That's right. And so what I said was, they all got mad at me because they wanted me to change my mind about doing the wedding. The reason I didn't was because I didn't hear one fact. I heard opinions. Doug's evil. Doug's a predator, an opportunistic.
I don't know why we're
predator.
talking about the past. We're just here to
Wait
talk
a
about
minute. Well,
now.
don't correct me. Don't correct me.
I'm not correcting
Don't
you. I'm
correct me.
trying
Don't correct
to
me.
understand.
But Doug's an opportunistic predator, and so you begin at this dark assumption, and everything else builds on that. Everything's a part of that narrative. And at the end of that, if it was a court of law, not any of that could be admitted as evidence because it was all circumstantial. I was listening for facts, I didn't hear it. And so what I believe about you guys is you started with some bad assumptions. Now, Susie, you were excited in the beginning about the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Something changed you. I don't know if that was Rodney Howard Brown or what it was, but something changed you. And then you guys changed and all began to have this dark narrative related to Doug.
And they talk to others, like they talk to other friends and people, like they have tried to impugn my character and Doug's character.
Yeah.
So I know that for a fact.
Well, you did with me. I mean, what I'm saying is that however you got to that point of believing that about Doug, I didn't know Doug well when this all started. I mean, I've been around Doug, but I just didn't know him. I've been totally impressed with Doug since the very beginning. And with his character, with his spirit, I've pressed him hard in private conversations. Every time I've pressed him, he's responded graciously and honestly and humbly. And so in everything, and I told you guys I had that final conversation with Ward about Doug and Joni and just said, I'm going to do a wedding unless you tell me otherwise.
Now, here's the thing with him. And he said he pressed Doug very hard. I'd like to know what type of questions did you ask him? Give me an example of what questions did you ask him? How hard did you press him? Or did you just throw softballs at him? And if it was something that was negative on your part, would you question Joni? Now, you said she is, in that facility, she is the voice of God. So would you question her? Or would you be like the son and his wife and say, no, I have to question the situation. I have to question what's going on. See, now would you have the intestinal fortitude to confront Joni on an issue or on a matter that you disagree with? Because what it all boils down to also, now he's correct when he mentions about, because the word speaks of this, in being submission to those in authority, whether it be at work, government, anyone in authority over you, you ought to be submissive. That is the word. Now, when it's something that is contrary to what God has said, okay, now either you come against that authority, but you do it in a righteous way, you do it in a dignified way, you do it within the parameters of rules that are governed or given to you. And if it's a situation where you continue to feel compelled, and it's coming against your spirit, well, then you take the next initiative, And especially if you feel this compunction from God, then you leave. Now, if you strongly hear the desire to stay, then you stay, be it God, and then allow the process of them removing you themselves. So this is how you go about those situations.
Lord confirmed it. So on every level, I have, with my experience of 41 years, I have done everything I can do to know. And I told her in the first conversation I had with her, if God won't bless it, I don't want to have any part of it. I don't want to do anything to get you to be a part of a relationship God will bless. I put my hands on them and laid my hands on them at the wedding and blessed them because I believe God has blessed them. Okay. So if that's something that you agree with, great. If that's something you don't agree with, and you can't then do whatever she asks you to do and be who you are here at Daystar, you got to go. Discussing, we're telling you.
That's what we're trying to. I'm trying to understand. Come to terms with Jody with.
She's God's voice to you related to Daystar. Whatever she says goes without argument, without difficulty. Can you do that?
I will stand on my convictions before God. I will do the job that I signed up to do, which was to talk about God. I believe that your marriage is outside of Daystar.
Your job is to do what
talk
she
about
tells
your
you.
mother and put her Instagram up. That's not talking about God.
I don't understand what you're talking
You
about.
put your Instagram, her mother's Instagram. So y'all should follow her. She's on a worldwide on ministry now.
Oh, I didn't know that was wrong.
No, what, have we ever done that before? No, I don't think we've ever done that.
I didn't plan it. It's just kind of like.
And talked about her father for like 5 minutes and showed a clip. But we're supposed to talk about
He was on Mind of a Man.
I'm not saying that. The same.
No, that was ministry. He was a mind of a man.
No, that's fine. But the putting her mother saying that,
Yes,
which I love her mother and father. I'm just saying
the feedback.
Her argument is
If
this.
it was,
the feedback was about your marriage.
And we talk about all the time. You were sending about Susie, Jonathan, me, table talk, Rebecca, the babies, the grandchildren. We talk about all these things. So read a viewer comment about Doug that was positive. They would not submit to that. That was my decision. Doug didn't even have anything to do with it. And the day I dismissed him from the program, Doug didn't even know what was going on. Of course, he'll get blamed for everything, but he knew nothing of it. The fact that the Lord spoke to me about having him co-host with me, because he's now my husband and because he's gifted, he has a degree in theology, and he's a godly man, and a husband and wife team is what it was, Marcus and Joni show. And then Marcus decided to bring the kids in for a little to give them some experience. Like it just blew my mind that day that they refused to read. She left as soon as she saw it. They told me that she stomped off and left and said, "I'm leaving. I'm not doing this." So I mean,
I was told I had no option, so I didn't know what the other option was to do.
Well, I mean, there will be a viewer comment next time you are on about Doug. So you either submit and read it, or you leave. And there's not going to be any in between. I'm not putting up with any more stuff. I'm not putting up with any more rudeness in the green room. We're either going to love everyone. I'm not going to feel the divisiveness when I'm trying to minister to the world.
Where have you been rude in the green room?
Y'all.
We're never even in the green room.
You've been rude to Doug, ignored him. Susie didn't even speak to me yesterday.
When I see him, I always like say hi or shake his hand.
No, Jonathan, you have been cold and you have been rude.
No,
you have not been Jonathan that I know.
You
have not been your father's son. You have not been.
When have I?
And you, Susie, have always been so close to me and always so teachable. I don't even know who you are right now.
If I pass Doug, I always make a note to acknowledge him. But
no, you don't, Jonathan. You've been rude.
No, when was that? Can you give me a specific example?
Okay, I also want you to remind you to keep in mind that Doug, the one in question, Joni's new husband, keep in mind that he was, well, I put it this way, he, as they had mentioned, that he has power in the sense of forensics. And they also, the kids that is, they also allege that he had something to do with the evidence. That's what it sounds like, the evidence of pertaining to their child. Not that he did something specifically to the child, but it sounds like a big cover up. I just wanted to reiterate that also, okay? Just to keep you reminded of that, to not venture away from that, but just keep that in mind because of, again, this is their contention. And also with the wife, Susie, her big bugaboo was someone, a listener, well, a viewer made a comment, a good comment about Doug, Joni's husband. And one named Susie, she looked at that as, I can't say that on the air, even though this is a comment from a viewer. This is not her comment, but she felt compelled to let everyone know that even though I'm reading this from a viewer's point of view about Doug, I don't see him that way. And I told my wife that in that regard, it's the same as you can have someone, a news anchor, be on the news, and they may hate Donald Trump, but they still have to report what someone else said about Trump. So sometimes we can, if we have a job and we have to report something that someone else said, we still have to have discernment in taking ourselves out of the mix. And that unfortunately Susie put herself in the mix, and I guess she feels like she's the one saying something good about Doug, which she wasn't. So in that regard, you still have a job to do your job. Now if you feel that way, if you feel that bad about it, then leave the job, quit the job, or allow yourself to get fired on it. So I guess that's the route that she took. So again, I just wanted to make that assessment.
Give you an example, every time you come in his presence, you dart out. Y'all try
Come
to
in his
leave the room
presence.
or
No, I mean, you might be on the set, but I mean, I don't go out of my
defend
way.
it. Don't defend it. It's so appealing.
No, I'm saying that I haven't been in the green room with him.
It's so,
recently.
just like throw it to Mom and Doug, like three days in a row on the whiteboard in front of it. Back to you,
Well,
Mom.
part of the dynamic between you guys right now is you're feeding each other. And when you said that you're the leader of the home, I don't doubt that. But you're not being a good leader. You're not being a good leader here. You're not being a good leader at home. Because what Susie needs right now is the encouragement to submit, not the encouragement to keep ranking. And what you need is a leader. See, as a leader, you have to be a follower. Jesus said, "I do nothing unless I see my Father doing it." Jesus was a great leader because he was a great follower. You're a terrible follower on him. And you've always been great. You and your mom have always, see, here's the point. You've always done what your mom said because you agreed with it. Now you don't agree.
You don't have nothing to fear from me, but I am putting my foot down on this. And you either come along with me or you leave. And I don't want you to leave. He sold everything I own. He's the only child. Is on every account. He could steal all my money right now if he wanted to.
So I have spent days and days on my face before God because all I've ever known is submission. I have never been one to challenge anything. The reason you said you don't know where it turned is because I started to feel all sorts of things in my spirit where it just didn't sit right. And my form of submission is doing my little job here and going home to my kids. I don't ever question anything you do. I just stick to that. I have one boundary, whereas I won't fake something. I don't feel it's my conviction. And if on those grounds you have to fire me, then you have to do that. But I do my job. I talk about God.
And when Johnny was talking about this situation, whatever, you're fallible. And that's why you need authority.
Why do you think I gave it to God? I walked away from anything.
But we're not talking about God. We're talking about authority.
I gave it to them. Exactly. Authority, Marcus and Joni. And I let it go completely.
What
Didn't
about Johnny?
stand on.
What about Johnny and Doug?
What about, they're married, we come do the show. I'm not going to be part of the show.
The same spirit of submission, you give it to them, you want?
That's my point. That's since day one. I come, do my little bit and I leave.
You will come and read a comment about that?
That's the conviction. That I'm not gonna just fake a relationship that's not there. I'm just gonna be authentic to myself. If that's viable, so
just
be
have
it.
a relationship with him. Build a relationship. But you're hiding behind all this religious talk.
It's not religious.
It's religious talk. When you won't read this comment about Doug on the air, it says everything.
It says everything. It reveals the heart, and that is what.
But no one.
That's the revealing that has taken place. I would have never seen this in these two had Doug not come into the picture, and now I do, and I feel like God wanted me to see it for the future, and so it's disheartening because I love them both so much. I've been nothing but good to them their whole life. I mean, I birthed this child here. So.
Well, again, in the real world, you guys wouldn't get this kind of treatment.
Marcus would have fired them both by now.
Again, what I wanted to hear from the son and daughter-in-law is I wanted to hear them point out the fact that their child was molested by somebody. And I wanted them to press the mother, Joni, on the situation because, again, she and her late husband swept this under the rug. Whoever molested her, they know who it is. And I didn't, or maybe they were advised by the lawyer not to bring it up. That could be the issue. That could be the reason. Let me know if you think the same or you have another angle on that. But this is what I'm feeling on that. But that it was never brought up. And you figure again, being a grandparent, this is your grandchild. This is a child. Something's wrong in that mix there.
Not to put up with it for a second. He would have said, leave. He told the kids before. He told me before. He said, don't you dare let them get away with disrespect. He would tell me all the time. He'd say, I will fire them in a second. So I have always been a little bit more long-suffering and grace-filled, but I'm done. So I just need to know, are you going to submit and respect my authority and let's move forward? Or are you gonna leave? Which is it?
I'm not leaving, but I told you I will.
You will leave if you don't submit to me.
I just said I will. Yes, I will submit to your authority, but if there's something that passes a personal.
I can't have a but. Dr. Phil says if there's a but in the sentence, you disqualify everything that you said before.
If I had to submit to her, then absolutely.
That's what he just said. I submit to you, Mom.
So you would read a comment. The comment y'all wouldn't read, you would not read.
I mean.
That's what he's saying.
Okay. That right there, when he started to mumble and ramble and go, come on, either you stay the course. My thing is just don't punk out like that. Because your wife, be it Susie, she's been pretty straightforward with it, where she more or less said, look, I'm going to stick with what my conviction is. You'll just have to fire me. Now, that's what Susie said, the wife. She said, you'll just have to fire me. Jonathan, on the other hand, he sounds like he wants to keep the job. It kind of reminds me of Lot's wife, where she wanted, her heart was still back at Sodom, and she was warned not to look back, but then she looked back. Now this situation with Jonathan Lamb, it, he wasn't. He was basically told either a yes or a no, and now his wife was like, I'm. This is the hill I'm taking. This is the hill I'm taking. I'm going to die on, no matter what, because there's something more to this. While Jonathan, he's like, I don't know. Look, just be straight up. Be a man. Be straight up on this. Tell your mother, look, you'll just have to fire me then. And leave it right there. You'll just have to fire me. So let's hear a little more, and then I think we're going to wrap this up. And see, this is him still trying to think it through.
So now you're in trouble with her.
Now you're
Why are you
in
trouble?
I know.
You're making me some bad guy.
I'm
I
not in
said
trouble
you
with her.
can
I'm
be.
just.
Yeah,
She says
Just
no.
speak
You
your
are
mind.
bad.
I'm
You are
telling.
bad, Susie. You got him by the balls, and you know it. And
Wow,
that's
babe.
exactly what
Babe, they're
you do.
really scary. They think horrible
No,
things.
no.
baby.
That's not
I've
the
got
case
you
at
by
all.
the balls.
And other people
Who
see it. You
talks
see it in
like
your eyes
this?
right now, and you look at him like
Who
you gave him a
talks?
look.
I gave him a look of pity. Like I'm trying to. You're cornering him. This is so evil. What is happening?
No, what's evil
And
is
you're
you.
telling me that I've
What's
got him
evil
by the
is you and the
balls.
spirit
Oh,
that's driving you, and the things you've done, the things you
horrible.
said, the things you've written, the people that you've talked to, the people who've told me things you said that are disgusting.
Like what?
That is what evil.
Like what?
You know, Susie.
What? I don't.
You
Tell me.
know. Oh, please, don't even try it.
What are
okay?
those?
Just
What are?
don't.
Can you tell me what those things are?
No, I'm not, because you know what they are.
I have
I
no
don't.
idea.
Jimmy, you were there in the meeting with the children. You heard what all she said. You told me what
Tell
she
me
said.
some of the things.
We don't.
Well,
Why do we have to repeat what you said? You know what you said.
Susie, the thing is,
Everything I
the
said
whole,
in good
the
conscience,
whole
so I don't know
conversation,
what's disgusting.
the whole conversation gets down to you're not submitted. Now you've admitted it, so I'm good with you. You've admitted you won't. Okay. Now it's down to you, and you won't. You always come back to the qualification of the personal conviction.
Okay. So I'm going to end it right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to also mention the fact that now I don't have it on here, but I heard it on another audio. Whereas Joni, she had got so mad that she started cursing. I mean, she started using the sh word. Yeah. I mean, she really got hot and heated. And no, I didn't want to. I didn't want to play that part. And then also, now Joni mentioned that a couple of her friends were divorced, and she pretty much threw them under the bus because she said that she mentioned the reasons that they got divorced was for um, um, adultery and so forth. But when questioned about her current husband, she gave she gave no reason or explanation of why he divorced. She just said things were complicated and that that he had every right to. So he had every right to. So again, the problem is this situation of the church being in a mess right now. And I'm not talking about this church, but other churches also. And what's going on is a bad example. And yes, all churches have problems, all because we're all people. But it's a correct way of doing things. It's a correct way of going about the business of God. Okay, and when we take God out of the mix and put ourselves to the forefront ahead of God, then that's when we're in error. The solution for this, and I had mentioned it earlier, is that We need to be forthcoming. We need to be truthful. We need to put God first in all things because the word says so. And when it comes to the situation of marrying someone, and I get it, your spouse died, but when someone is in question of, because I've seen this before with another high profile minister, McClendon, whereas he left his wife and it wasn't for adultery, because God is very specific on this. It wasn't for adultery. He just wanted to do that to get with someone else. And that's a no. You don't do that. You don't do that. It's for better or worse, to death do us part, with the exception of adultery. So her getting married, it's like I said, it sounds all this sounds convoluted when all the facts are put into place, and the solution is that people need to man up or woman up, be about the word of God, and not put their own agenda ahead of God. And you do that, and then you repent of your situation, your sins. Now, that situation with Joni and her new husband, that's between them and God, and that's between them, because if they're in the wrong, then that's between them. But at the same time, you're running a network, you're running a church, so to speak. You need to get right with that church. You need to correct the situation, and you need to be led by God in correcting that situation. Now, if I am in that congregation, or if I am someone who watches the network, then I need to be led by God on what to do next. That is the solution to take. You be led by God on what to do next. You pray about this situation, and then you move from there. Said.